Companies are putting a greater effort in diversifying their games. What does that change? Why are they doing that? What double plus good change are they going to make occur naturally? Not force, not force. Games media is more likely to call out when diversity is absent or done poorly. Oh, so reporters will say, why aren't there more brown people? And shame studios. And Kim Belair offers a service to avoid this bad PR. To try and get more money earlier. Oh, it's like there's some kind of system. A system that puts pressure to add more what's called diversity. DEI is a moral necessity. Wait, so they're right! Why are you telling me they're insane conspiracy theorists and then just telling me actually they're right, though? What is this article? So they'll be a victim, they'll be in danger, until, for example, they get Steam forums locked down, until they get the consequences they want, or when they see that they can't get what they want from being a victim and being vulnerable, then they switch to, we're actually the strongest and you can never stop us. They do that flip. It's very disgusting. At this point, multiple journalists, games journals and otherwise, have covered what's being dubbed Gamergate 2 by some. The latest article is on Verge and it's by Ash Parrish, and some of you may have seen her around on Twitter saying dumb things. She also went into the Sweet Baby Inc. detected Discord and tried to talk to the people there, and she also talked to some people on Twitter. So before we even jump into her article, I thought it'd be interesting to see her parting message on the Discord and also a DM she supposedly had with a Twitter user, which might be interesting. Ash Parrish wrote for The Verge a little article called The Return of Gamergate is Smaller and Sadder. Surprise! Ash Parrish previously worked at Kotaku. Before we even get to that, though, she left a message. She left the Discord group of those guys with a message. I hope those of y'all with an open mind realize that Sweet Baby is not your enemy. They tried to get their shit banned. Yes, in those terms, they absolutely are their enemy. Absolutely. I hope you realize that quote-unquote woke is also not your enemy. Define it. Otherwise, that doesn't mean anything. I presume her definition would not be the same as theirs. Meaningless statement. Meaningless statement. And that your group's continued quote-unquote crusade against quote-unquote woke makes you look bigoted to the people they already hate. Hi, I'm a journalist. I think you should really start optics cucking. By the way, I'm in a position to decide your optics because I write for an outlet. You should optics cuck. By the way, I decide what your optics are. I hope you understand that non-sexualized depictions of women, the inclusion of people of color and queer people in the games themselves, smash them up, mash them into a paste, compress them into a disc, making them and writing about them is a net positive for gaming. Why the hell would she say it's a net positive? Why would she say it's a net positive? She thinks there are downsides to it. That's pretty anti-woke, Ash. That's pretty... Why would you say net positive? Something to be celebrated, not memed. Okay, I hope more of you, like you've done here, actually talk to people you disagree with. I thought the problem was that they do, and that's not appreciated. What makes me sad is that this is a pattern of behavior that can really destroy people's lives. What is? Writing about public figures nastily? Not really. You have this group of like-minded people assembled in common cause. And while I believe you when you say you're gonna try to clean up your act, did they say that? That's so cucked. There will be those who don't want to clean up their act, and so they'll get pushed into private discords with more like-minded folks who will feel like they have more license or freedom to let their worst impulses fly. So what do you want? Do you want the people in this group to hunt them down and f***ing kill them? Just end their lives? Because no matter what the people do in this group, they still exist. Yes, correct. What's her suggestion? The extermination of the wrong-uns? And they'll get even more on the fringe. Sorry, so excising them from the more public spaces is bad? What is she arguing now? The things they talk about will get worse and worse until the alienation is complete. They've lost friends, families, jobs, and health because nobody wants to be around them for this kind of behavior. Sorry, this group pushing those people out causes that. But the people going after the group to push everyone out into corners, they're not responsible for that. What is even being said here? It happened with Gamergate and QAnon, and it'll happen again. I hope you'll stop digging through Kim Belair's and Alyssa Mercant's social media, but not David Bedard's social media, that's fine. Not Chris's social media, that's fine. I told you! The coolest thing about Gamergate-like phenomena is they have to say it's women being attacked. It's women. By the way, it's women being attacked. Which means if you f*** with a dude, they won't defend them. And if a dude tries to defend himself, they'll get angry at him. Right? Not suggesting you do anything, just watch. Observe. I hope you'll stop digging through Kim Belair's and Alyssa Mercant's social media, posting pictures of them and photoshopping images of them. Public figures eat shit. What is this idea of social media being personal? Open social media is personal. You're digging through the social media. Yeah? Would you say, I hope you'll stop reading the book they published? Same stuff. People are just delusional. People are just out of their skull about social media. They think what they post is like they're out in public and those are the thoughts in their head and it's private. No, it's the same as like publishing an ebook. It's just short. Insane. So that was her parting message to their Discord. She also, apparently, messaged an individual on Twitter, and she said a fair bit more than I'm going to show here, but it's all along the same thing. There are a few messages. This is post their article explaining the omission of the casus belli. Why did Ash Parish omit the casus belli? The cause of this being a story at all. Make no mistake, the Chris Kindred stuff, if that hadn't happened, none of these articles would have been written. Because like they say, those little groups, like Sweet Baby Detected was, people talking about this stuff, they've been talking about stuff like that and about people like that forever, and it doesn't become a new story. Right? Ash Parish says to Your Read This WR1 on Twitter, she says, Hi, let's chat. We're not going to agree and that's fine. We don't have to. I don't agree that Kindred calling for the report of the Steam list /Cabrutus constitutes harassment. Watch what happens here. Associated with that list was a discussion forum, 100 pages of threads filled with terrible shit, up to and including harassment. I don't agree that talking about someone can be harassment. People argue about this. No, something hasn't been mentioned here yet. Getting rid of the list gets rid of that forum, and you'll see now. Steam cut that shit out, those forums are gone, and the list is still there. I'm not going to fault Kindred for trying and halfway succeeding at getting a vector for harassment shut down, so that's the first part. You see it your way, I see it mine. What wasn't mentioned in the explanation of why that's okay? Did you catch that? Their explanation of why there didn't include report the creator since he loves his account so much. A purely vindictive call to action to try and dispossess him of his game licenses. That is not self-defense against harassment. Not at all. As far as the omission of this, quote, instigating incident from reporting, okay, let's look at this event holistically, taking everything into account. Essentially, she goes with the whole, it's about the bigger picture, it's bigger than this, it's bigger than this. The reason there are the numbers there are is that casus belli. That is why this became a story, instead of just being some random people on the internet. That's why this blew up. She asked this guy after that, I'll ask you this genuinely, does not including the bit about Kindred's tweets make it seem like I'm being unfair to the Steam group? Does it cast any of their actions or words before the tweets or after in a different light? The who the they is totally changed because of those actions. We went from less than 20,000 people to over 250,000 people. The form of what the group is completely changed. The reason for joining the group morphed. There's also no mention that there were leftoid trolls there. There were pro-diversity trolls or false flaggers or whatever, praising and advocating mass shootings against conservatives in the group as well. Guess what? When you have thousands of people in one place, you get schizos. I'm sorry, but it's true. I got message stuff as well. Horrifying. How will I survive being called a disgusting Jew? woke shit. We are winning Gamergate 2. It's better than ever. And Stellar Blade, it's better than any game with disgusting black and ugly women looking like word I can't say on Twitch. You are losing and I hope all of them get fired or killed. I was messaged with that. I'll survive. It's fine. Who cares? And I was messaged that. That wasn't written about me on a Steam forum that I need never look at. It was, however, in my, DMs from people you don't follow, so I did have to actively go and look for it. But yeah, I got sent that. Oh no, oh no, oh no. The most important thing about this whole situation, why this is a situation at all, not important, right? Talking about someone who's put themselves out there publicly with a public profile, harassment, attempting to dispossess someone of their games licenses, get them removed from a platform for purely vindictive purposes. Quote, report the creator since he loves his account so much. They wouldn't call that harassment though. I feel like they would if someone else was targeted. But we have the Verge article. Published on the Verge, written by Ash Parrish. The return of Gamergate is smaller and sadder. A group of gamers has mobilized a harassment campaign against a story consultant company, marginalized developers and journalists, in protest of what they see as forced diversity in gaming. To talk about this, right? The messages to them. Why did that start exploding? It's rage in response to what Chris Kindred was saying. You kicked a hornet's nest. You poked a beehive, man. The Discord server at the center of Gamergate 2.0 is, in some respects, like any other online community. I have to say, I've never joined it or even looked at it. They could be doing all sorts of stuff. They could be live streaming butchering female reporters. I don't know. While I was there, I observed people talking about their day, their jobs, and their interests. Its members streamed themselves playing Bejeweled and showed off their personal video game development projects. But one chat room over, the server was filled with racist memes, sexist and ableist slurs, anti-Semitic messages, and incitations of violence against women and people of color. Incitement of violence? May I see it? And at the center of it all was one video game narrative development company, Sweet Baby Inc. I'd like to see it. I don't understand the not seeing it. If you're going to talk about it constantly, you're not depriving it of air. People say there's some really shifty dudes in there. I'm sure there are, but why do you not show it? It would work way better. Also, I don't think you can have a Twitter account and complain about proximity to this, okay? Come on. This growing group of people want to believe themselves a new incarnation of Gamergate. I can't speak for the Discord server. I know the guys on Twitter, a lot of them are like, I can't believe they're calling us Gamergate 2. A harassment campaign started in 2014 that targeted women speaking out against misogyny in the video games industry. I'll say it again. No man who is on their side is safe. They cannot help you. They will not be helped. They won't help them. Back then, the harassers used obfuscating tactics, cloaking their oftentimes violent harassment in the veneer of legitimate complaint. This is insane conspiracy theory stuff. You have to show me that they're the same people, or at the very least, that these specific people have organized, right? Pretty much any large group is going to have schizos, and it's going to have people who don't want to be tarred with those schizos. If you start tarring people with the behavior of schizos in their group, they're going to defend themselves with what they're doing. They're not trying to do a smokescreen. They're going, why the hell are you calling me a terrorist? Stop it. I'm just doing this. I'm just doing this. Social media gave a platform to those, quote, legitimate complaints, while the games industry itself remained largely silent. Oh no. Allowing the movement to grow into a many-tentacled behemoth, cool it with the anti-Semitism, please, that bolstered the ranks of the, quote, alt-right movements that plague our political landscape to this very day. Do we have numbers on that? What number of people who are alt-right were Gamergaters? Are we going to have a Gamergate elected Trump meme in this article? But this time, instead of assembling under the false banner of ethics in journalism. True, I would say that doesn't exist either. You're correct. Ethics in journalism, not a thing. Hasn't been for a long time, if ever. Separation of church and state, the degradation of separation between editorial and advertising, that's gone. Ethical journalism, non-existent. This new campaign has chosen, quote, wokeism and Sweet Baby as the focus of their grievances. And people like you. Don't forget it. The result has been a wave of bigoted harassment targeting marginalized developers, journalists, and gamers. Is she trying to do the "these people aren't gamers" meme? She probably didn't write this because they've messed up by calling them gamers. You have to specifically not call the Sweet Baby Inc. detected people gamers and then call the people they're targeting gamers if you want to do the weird gamer idpol stuff that they love. On social media, the employees of Sweet Baby are subject to a deluge of death threats. A deluge of them. Probably some of them. Would people call what I was sent a death threat? Because normally when I'm shown a death threat, it's something like what I was sent. They're like, I hope all of you are killed. That's a death wish. That's not a death threat. There's also a significant difference between a credible death threat and some dumb on Twitter saying I'm going to kill you. Who cares? I don't understand caring that someone on social media said I'm going to kill you. If someone's saying I'm going to kill you, just saying like I'm going to kill you or whatever on social media, if that impacts you, you need to show me that when you get emailed by a Nigerian prince, you give him your bank details. Because otherwise I don't believe you that you believe the threats are real. Developers who've spoken out in support of Sweet Baby are faced with similar treatment, with several making their accounts private in an attempt to stem the tide of abuse. Boo-hoo! Just grow up. It's probably 14-year-olds. Journalists reporting on the story have become subject to the same harassment they're covering. The resulting frenzy has been amplified by major actors in the right-wing media sphere, including libs of TikTok, Matt Walsh, Ian Miles Chong, and Elon Musk. Okay, so the things they say in our inboxes is the most evil stuff you've ever seen in your life. I've seen the news. I've seen real things that I guarantee are far, far worse than anyone can send you in your social media inbox, said David Bedard, co-founder and COO of Sweet Baby, in an interview with The Verge. Hey, they quoted a dude. The harassment campaign against Sweet Baby echoes the Gamergate movement of 10 years ago, once again targeting women, people of color, and journalists. The three genders. Women, people of color, and journalists in the games industry. But this time, the events are playing out differently. Developers and gamers are pushing back. Are they? How? Affirming that the kind of diversity these people rail against is here to stay. Like what? And after speaking with Sweet Baby employees and spending time with their detractors, it's clear the goals of this harassment campaign are largely a reactionary backlash against trends in video games that cannot be meaningfully stopped. Yeah, games are gonna get shit forever. Yeah, they're gonna just go to hell. It's gonna be gotcha. It's gonna be like, hey, give us 50 cents. And a little egg appears on your screen and a brown woman comes out. Great. Sweet Baby was co-founded in Montreal in 2018 by Bedard, who'd previously worked in games marketing at Eidos, and Ubisoft. That's a studio name I haven't heard in a long time. And Kim Belair, a writer and narrative designer. Honestly, the GG2 stuff, the Sweet Baby Inc. Detected stuff, probably helps them a lot more than it hurts them. Probably helps them a lot. Because now it's like, you have to pay us or you're with them. You're with the terrorists. It's weird that there's no mention yet. Maybe there will be later about the calls to regulate games for anti-terror purposes, to restrict narrative so that the narrative itself won't turn people into terrorists. Because even Mark Kern has been posting about that. A writer and narrative designer who'd worked at Ubisoft and Reflector Entertainment, the narrative development company offers services like script writing, story reviews, and sensitivity readings. Yes. Essentially everything that touches storytelling in games, whether creative or technical, Belair said in an interview with The Verge. Okay. The Neo Gamergate. Yo. In Neo Tokyo. The Neo Gamers in Neo Tokyo walking through the Neo Gamergate. The Neo Gamergate fervor surrounding Sweet Baby started with a Brazilian Steam user by the name of Cabrutus. In January, he created the Steam curation page called Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, which, the page description explains, is a tracker for games involved with Sweet Baby Inc. In an interview with Cabrutus in Geeks and Gamers, He believes Sweet Baby is responsible for forcing political agendas and DEI, the abbreviation for diversity, equity, and inclusion, into their games. Forcing? The force isn't like Kim Belair holding a gun to their head. The force is more systemic, which I'd think they'd understand, presumably as leftists, right? They'd understand systemic pressures. Cabrutis believes that any diverse characters or stories in Sweet Baby games are the result of its employees exerting pressure on developers to make additions or changes they might not otherwise make. If this Cabrutis guy said if there is ever any more than one type of character in a game... Oh, sorry, this is dog whistle. They mean brown. Diverse means brown in this article. She's dog whistling. She doesn't mean like if there are various kinds of characters. Has Cabrutis said like any non-white character is because of Sweet Baby? If he said that, that's silly to say. He said, I started noticing patterns in some games, like ugly women and male characters being weakened to make female ones look stronger. Cabrutis said in Geeks and Gamers. The game that brought his attention to Sweet Baby was God of War Ragnarok. I think anyone who played God of War 3 would find it really weird when Kratos decides to spare Thor and says, we must be better. That simply didn't fit the character. Does Sweet Baby oppose that decision? It's one thing to say, like, it's not their fault. He's accused them of doing this, which we haven't seen here yet. If they are in line with that, it still makes sense to avoid games where a consultancy that supports that sort of style and taste works on it. It still makes sense to avoid stuff they worked on. The fundamental argument against the idea of the group hasn't been countered yet. Even if he said they are the only people in control of the races of characters, they put all these decisions in. Even if he's wrong with that, if they're a consultancy that supports these choices and are thumbing up these choices, it still makes sense that you wouldn't want to go for a game that's being consulted on by people who believe those are good choices. What consultancies worked on a game is a parameter you could use to narrow down which games you want to buy or not. How else do you judge a consultancy for those purposes? You judge it on the back of what they've worked on, surely. Because how else would it just be it's never okay to make a curator to avoid a consultancy because you don't know exactly what they worked on? The information you've got to work on is what games have they worked on. That's all you got, unless they tell you. According to Cabrutis and the thousands of followers he's recruited through his Steam group and Discord server. Ooh, we've got terrorism language! He's recruited through his Steam group and Discord server. Developers have no choice but to make these woke narrative changes. Not because of Sweet Baby alone, of course. Sort of, yeah. SBID argues that game companies are forced to add wokeness to improve their ESG scores. I don't know jack about any of this. A measure of environmental, social, and governance considerations if they want to line investors. SBID supporters also argue that Sweet Baby has coerced developers into making changes through fear, pointing to out-of-context quotes from the company. Sweet Baby's CEO has advocated that employees at developers first go to their higher-ups, and then if they can't get higher-ups to make changes to get consultancy companies in, who advocate for this kind of change, whether they succeed or not, Sweet Baby wants to make these changes, and if you fail in going to the higher-ups, quote, terrify the marketing department to get funds reallocated so that you can get consultants in, to subvert authority. Anyway, the most widely circulated example involves clips of a Talk Belair, a black woman. She's not a black woman. I don't think she even says she's a black woman. Wait, why are you saying black woman here as well? Belair, a black woman, gave at the Game Developers Conference in 2019. In it, she counsels developers to terrify their bosses with the threat of cancellation if their requests for inclusivity are not met. That's not quite it. But a look at the clip's full context tells a different story. It's clear that Belair didn't want developers to scare their superiors into inclusivity. Instead, she wanted them to enlist support from the employees, those on the marketing and community side, who stand to receive the most backlash from players if those concerns aren't taken seriously. That's not a different thing. You said the same thing again. The only slight difference is it wasn't terrify their bosses, it was terrify the marketing department, yes. Yes, we all know that the terrify them is wokoids will get angry at you and go after you. Yes. No one thinks Kim Belair is saying, go and threaten to shoot up the marketing department or something. No one thinks that. She doesn't mean terrify them with what you're going to do. No, she's saying terrify them with what's going to happen if you put out a game that isn't sensitive enough and whatnot. Yes, that's what everyone means. That's what they're all saying. Bizarre. Absolutely insane statement. We can look at the clip, actually.
Early. If you're a creative working in AAA, which I did for many, many years, put this stuff up to your higher-ups. And if they
go to the higher-ups first.
Don't see the value in what you're asking for when you ask for consultants, when you ask for research, go have a coffee with your marketing team and just terrify them with the possibility of what's going to happen if they don't give you what you want. Because they have to consider, like, I say that all as a joke, but it's actually very, very true, because if you start to consider the people who are player and audience facing and who have to deal with mitigating harm and with keeping the sentiment around their game and their project positive, there's like a genuine value that you can impress upon them.
No one is saying, she's saying, scare them and say you're going to cancel them. Yes, we get the clip. We know what the clip is. This is an absurd part of the article. Why is she lying this hard? Why would she lie this hard and this blatantly? Yes, we understand. Go to your boss and say getting a consultancy in is important. If they don't buy it, subvert them. Subvert the company. Go to the marketing department, warn them, hey, you're going to have to deal with a lot of shit. Perhaps if journalists write about how racist your game is, if people get angry, if that destroys the image of your game, get money shifted over by marketing to pay us. Yes, I agree, Ash. That is what she's saying. It's horrible. It doesn't make it good. It's what everyone knows it's saying. Like, what the hell is this? In reality, although, to be fair, it's not really to get inclusivity in. It's to leech cash. It's to be a parasite. It's to subvert the higher-ups and get money. What they get that money for is injecting their shit, if they possibly can. It's true. It's true. They may well fail. They have absolutely stated that their goal is to network. To network and to advocate for their idea of what needs to be in games. They've said it, right? They've said this. In reality, Sweet Baby and other video game consultants contracted by studios to support the studio's own goals, including not being on the wrong end of a cancellation mob. Of course, that's a major reason for hiring sensitivity readers. They consult, wrote Mary Kenny, the associate narrative director on the forthcoming Wolverine game from Insomniac Games, who worked with Sweet Baby on another Insomniac title, Marvel Spider-Man 2. Marvel Spider-Man 2. The one where we had the leaked Insomniac sensitivity video that was inadvertently extremely racist towards Asian men. But anyway, they do research, pitch ideas, give feedback, and maybe even write scripts, but none of that gets into the game unless the core dev team agrees with it. It's this again. Does their brain exist in a vortex? In a vacuum? Are devs perfect, rational, logical agents unaffected by culture? I don't think so. Sometimes would be brought in to just look at a project storyline to give feedback on it to find ways that it can better kind of align with gameplay mechanics, to smooth out that ludonarrative dissonance. Golski, indeed, and if the core dev team doesn't agree, tell marketing. Kyle Rowley, game director on Alan Wake 2, responded to a rumor on X that Sweet Baby was responsible for changing Saga Anderson. I don't know anything about this. One of the game's main characters from a white woman to a black woman. It's absolutely not true, he wrote. Okay. To date, Cabrutus's curation list features 16 games, including Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, and Sable. All the games on the list are marked not recommended. A rating that has nothing to do with the game's perceived quality. Again, true, Nicandros. Why did you pick the race? If you didn't pick the race for political purposes, you're actually being a bad person, I've learned. So that's an L for him. All the games on the list are marked not recommended, a rating that has nothing to do with the game's perceived quality. One game on the list, Tales of Kanzara Zhao, doesn't launch till April, but because of Sweet Baby's involvement in the game's development. Obviously. Yes, it's just a list of games that Sweet Baby's been involved with. Yes. SBID serves as a warning to like-minded gamers not to buy anything on the list. Or just, as a list of what they worked on. No, Hex! No! You don't understand. You must get consultants in early and pay them. Employees at these companies, go to your higher-ups, get them to get consultants in. If you fail, you have to go to marketing. Scare marketing with what could potentially happen if they don't get consultants and sensitivity readers in. It could be a bloodbath. It could be a social media disaster. You'll get cancelled. You'll be written about. Scare them. It's so important to get consultants in so the disaster doesn't happen. They're such an important piece of the puzzle. They need to be paid. They need to succeed. By the way, they also don't actually do anything on your game, so you can't blame them for the quality of anything they've worked on. If it's good, that's them, though. If it's good, that's them. We're just tired of seeing people's creative visions being butchered in order to add something that's not even necessary or asked for, wrote Zinji, a moderator for the Discord server, in a DM conversation. Why do I care? The reality is game development, especially AAA development, involves contributions from massive multidisciplinary teams, and it's actually quite difficult to attribute any one element to an individual or specific team. Sure, best you can do. Well, people were advocating for better credits, for better crediting of work, actually. That was a thing for a long time. Did people drop that? Sure. Guess what that means? That makes it more reasonable to have a list of games that a particular consultancy worked on. Because that's the best you can do. Right? That's the best you can do because you don't know what specifically they worked on. That's the best you can do. You wouldn't ask a programmer, which part of this did you code? Maybe I would, said Bedard. The whole thing is a team effort, and it only works because everything fits to the other parts really well. This isn't an argument against a list like that, though. It means it makes more sense to simply list every game they worked on, because you don't know what they're responsible for, and you can choose for yourself. Is there a pattern of games they work on sucking? Maybe it's because of them. That's the best you can do. It is deeply ironic that one of the group's stated purposes is to rally against forced diversity in games, when developers are often forced to make their games more homogeneous. I have never in my entire career seen anyone pressure a developer to make a character more queer or less white. You don't need to see a particular person do it, wrote Christina Pollock, a veteran game developer. I have, however, seen many instances of developers being forced to change their characters to be straight and or white. Random people outside a studio on the internet complaining is not the same as management directing you to make the game a certain way. Be serious. I was told that's what... Wait! If management is making people straight and or white, why are they doing it? It's because of their perception of the culture. Twisted Fate and Graves were supposed to be gay. Diana and Leona were supposed to be star-crossed. Oh, you could start a list on League alone. It is about League of Legends. I didn't read the OP. We're using Riot. Many other developers echoed her sentiment. The anti-censorship crowd like to argue that developers should be able to make the game they want. That was in the past. Without being told to make changes to please the market. No. You're missing something huge. This shit is not. Don't censor them. This shit now. You got rid of the people who were like, don't censor stuff. You tried to do antibiotics in 2014. You only killed the people who wanted to support you doing whatever you wanted. Now, it's people who want things one way versus people who want things the other way. And you're gonna have to eat shit forever. These are the consequences of your actions, you dumb fucks. Wrote Gavin Young, a developer on Rainbow Six Mobile. Believe me, we're trying. We put diverse characters in games because they represent our teams and our friends. Okay. Another common refrain from members of SBID is that they actually don't care if a character comes from a marginalized background, so long as their identity isn't the sole focus of their character. This is just the typical cringe trash you always get. You can probably get, in a large enough group, you can probably get every take. I would say there is a massive current in this current stuff. This is, I want games to be my way versus your way. And it's like that because of how hostile journalism and advocates have been. That I feel like a lot of the people who are just like, I don't want there to be any of these horrendous pressures on making creative works. Those guys, I think they pieced out. I think they mostly pieced out. Now it is just the people who are like, I want everything paused, I want everything black and gay, versus I want everything white and I want everyone to have huge tits. Those two currents are much stronger on either side now. Like, and you did it, so live with it. There's also a current of, I think you're ruining America and I want you to die, and you did that too, by making it look like that's the fight they have to fight, so. Enjoy! My problem with most media nowadays, quote, my problem with most media nowadays is that they include black or LGBTQ characters without giving some thoughts about them, wrote SBID's Discord moderator. But they forget the most important aspect of a character, their relatability and how they feel like a real person that you can meet in real life. This is cringe, this is paused. How can you hate this person? But that need for character depth is the exact reason why developers contract with Sweet Baby. What a moron. Dude, this is giving me like George Not Found flashbacks. These guys don't know what they're doing. They're scared of being called stuff, and they're just walking into traps. However, also, I thought Sweet Baby didn't do anything. Sorry, yeah, they both are important, and remember. For their work on Alan Wake 2, Belair said, "We were specifically called to look at Saga's story. To look at how it's told, how the developers could better shore up aspects of herself, how her story reflects aspects of her identity, and essentially how to realize her as a fully human, fully authentic character. This lack of understanding about game development, whether intentional or not, belies the group's true function. A convenient excuse for anti-woke reactionary gamers to indulge in racist and misogynistic behavior that's typically shunned in online communities." Right. Ash has fantastically gone full retard again. They don't need an excuse. They do this all day 24/7, right? They've just gone where the people are. The people saying whatever stuff you're upset about, they're saying this anyway. They were just saying it somewhere else before now. They're not like, "I'm so glad I can say the N-word now that there's a Steam curator group. When I act racist, homophobic, or whatever, I feel free," one poster wrote in the Discord. That's absolutely hilarious and amazing. The arguments and discussions observed in the Discord and on Steam all hearken to the reactionary right-wing movement that has dominated the political landscape since Barack Obama's presidency. Then, as now, many young white men have grown increasingly alienated from a world they feel has left them behind. What are you talking about? A supposed de-emphasis of white males in pop culture in favor of women, people of color, and queer people exacerbated this alienation, especially in video games. You're talking about a very small slice of these people. Most of these people want their tastes catered to. I'm sure there are people who are like, this is white genocide, there's a black woman in Forspoken is the lead. There are schizos like that. Overwhelmingly, no, this is consumers want to consume the thing they want to consume. Really. Statistically, white men still dominate the video game space in terms of who is playing, making, starring, and writing about games. I was told since like 2010 that it's more women than men play these games. Strange, it's changed. But the landscape is changing. Companies are putting a greater effort in diversifying their games. What does that change? Why are they doing that? What double plus good change are they going to make occur naturally? Not force. Games media is more likely to call out when diversity is absent or done poorly. Oh, so reporters will say, "Why aren't there more brown people?" and shame studios. And Kim Belair offers a service to avoid this bad PR, to try and get more money earlier. Oh, it's like there's some kind of system. A system that puts pressure to add more what's called diversity. Done poorly, and the kinds of antisocial behaviors that were once the hallmark of gaming culture are becoming less and less tolerated. As a result, Cabrutus and his followers feel disenfranchised. We're in an age where if you don't want to see a BLM or a pride flag in a game, you're a bigot, wrote a member in the Discord. You're also a bigot if you want to see them in a game. Like if you have Vampire Survivors, but you make all the basic enemies like trans women with like trans flag shirts. Apparently that makes you a bigot too. Which way is it? Where if you care that the women in games have big tits while there are giant muscular shirtless dudes, you're a misogynist. That's what I'm saying. These people they want their titties. In order to regain some semblance of control, the members of ESPID have chosen to attack something that neatly represents their every grievance. A small company. Not smaller than an individual Brazilian man, I'm sorry. A small company that specializes in improving a game's narrative, They have multiple specializations, okay? Staffed in part by women, queer people, and people of color. We'll have to make sure Sweet Baby is actually dead before picking a next target to go after together. Wrote a user on ESPID's Steam forum. Come on, man. Based on the time I spent lurking in their Discord, it became clear these people aren't actually here to create meaningful change for their cause. Most are simply there for the vibes, rancid though they are. "I'm just here because it's fun. Nothing's gonna happen," one user wrote in the Discord. I don't believe that this facade of... what should I call it? This author's putting on airs. I guarantee you she has an Anon Discord account and is on some up shit. I guarantee it. There are lots of emotions and passion bottled up from being silenced for an extended period of time, wrote another member of the Discord. This movement is basically causing everyone to vent out their frustrations. That doesn't mean the group is harmless. 10 years ago, Gamergate. True, Gamergate was not harmless. It made a lot of shit people a lot of money. Gamergate unleashed a wave of harassment targeting women, journalists, and people of color. Again, look at this incredible sandwich. Women, journalists, and people of color. All three of these are protected characteristics, of course. It created the template for a kind of violent right-wing internet culture that persists to this day. It's pretty organic, dude. And the guise of ethics and games journalism, thin as it was, I went at their trash articles all day, every day, directly on their reporting. Off. Tons of people did. Allowed the movement to shield its true aims. Its true aims. This is a... Okay. 1. She doesn't believe this. If she did, this is paranoid schizophrenia level of conspiracy theory. This is a conspiracy theory. You believe these thousands of people organized to stratify themselves into the harassers and the cover class. No. Let me explain why this is so absurd as well on its face. The people calling in bomb threats, threatening people, drawing cartoons of Anita Sarkeesian getting raped by Super Mario. They don't need anyone to cover for them. Why do they need cover? They can just do it. Protect them from what? What are they being protected from? Did you go to the police and the police went, sorry ma'am, it's actually about ethics and games journalism. I know my shirt's falling off. This is one of my obesity shirts. What does the cover do? Nothing. All the people doing that stuff can just do it. They can do it now. They do it now. They just do it to different people who you don't care about. They only care about it because it's them and theirs. The only reason these people were the target was because it got a lot of attention at the time. The people who pull that stuff pull it all day, every day, all year. You just only cared because of who it was towards this time or that time. You don't care when it's people like me. Yourself. Allowed the movement to shield its true aims since SBID to itself, as the second coming of Gamergate, it's important to apply the lessons not learned from the previous Gamergate and call this bigoted movement for what it is, loudly and vociferously. That doesn't do anything. That doesn't do anything. All it does, right, is make the people involved who aren't nasty feel bad, potentially turning them angry and bitter. And it encourages the people who are nasty to do more because they love it when that happens. However, I presume that is their goal because they only benefit from it, really. Unless someone actually does something. But I don't think that'd happen. Diversity in video games isn't going anywhere, and the practice of hiring consultants to punch up narratives certainly isn't going to change. Depends how the money goes, right? I don't know. You might... You don't think there's going to be a crash? You think they're going to prioritize consultancies after a crash? I don't know. Improving diversity continues to be an animating force in the industry. They're necromancers. Xbox, Nintendo, and Sony have made DEI a core part of their business, with commitments to diversify not only their workforces, but their games as well. This was called a conspiracy theory earlier, wasn't it? Wait, what? So it is a political, commitment to shape what's in games. To have humans, and to have humans align with the political values of diversity, equity, inclusion, whatever. DEI is a moral necessity. Wait, so they're right! Why are you telling me they're insane conspiracy theorists and then just telling me actually they're right, though? What is this article? DEI is a moral necessity until the people making games are a decent approximation of the world they are making games for. Why? Wrote Sam Barlow, director of several award-winning games, including Immortality, Telling Lies, and Her Story. No, Siffy. This is now... You take the current world. They're talking about the real world. What do they think about solo developers? Sorry, is being a solo developer immoral? Is being 100% white wrong if you're developing something on your own? It's a moral imperative to have a studio's makeup have the same racial ratio as the whole world. Wait, the whole world or just your country? Where's the line drawn for the racial ratios? It's for a global... They're making games for a global market. Wait, if you're making games for a global market, should it also reflect... Should it... Wait! Until the people making games are a decent approximation of the world they're making games for? How many English speakers should be on any given team? How many people who can even speak English should be on any given team? Or are we just talking about melanin levels? This is absurd. Your game studio should be made up of a bunch of monolingual people who don't speak each other's languages to reflect the world you're making games for. Why is it a moral necessity anyway? Also, saying DEI is a moral necessity tells us that it's being pushed and forced as a moral imperative. They want the whole world to be like Tekken 8. That would be kind of sick, but that's not really... They spent 80% of the article telling us that this is occurring is a conspiracy theory and they're insane. Spent the last 20% telling us no, they're actually correct. SBID's championing of developer freedom and creativity. They don't champion that. That's not true. Not really. That was like an old Gamergate thing. You killed those people off. You killed the nice boys and girls off by calling them terrorists and racists and misogynists. They pieced out. You've got the people who are like, give me the f***ing tits. Give me white women with huge tits. That's what you've got now. That's the culture you curated from 2014 onwards. I'm sorry if you don't understand you did it, but you did. You fail to consider the possibility that the diversity they oppose might actually be what developers and gamers truly want. You've presented us that they believe it's morally necessary. It's a crusade, you have told us. It's the reason studios hire companies like Sweet Baby in the first place. Where did the nice people go? Just sort of like settled down, became less involved with stuff. You see way less of it and way more of the other people. If you oppose something that's a moral necessity, what are you? If something is morally needed, it's a moral imperative and you oppose it, what does that make you? And consider that this is the message the press is amplifying. The press is amplifying, if you oppose this, you're evil. By the way, no one's trying to force anything. And while this movement matters to Sweet Baby employees because of the harassment they're receiving, in the larger context of the video game industry, it seems to be quickly fizzling out. What does that even mean? It was never part of the industry. It's just some people on Steam and Discord. And then talking on social media and some YouTubers talking about it. Steam has apparently taken some action against SBID. As of publication, the vast majority of the Steam discussion forums have been deleted and existing threads are currently locked. Woohoo! If you think the people who write horrible things about you are dangerous, you may have encouraged them to escalate. In fact, oh god, I got rid of it. Ash Parrish, the author of this piece, warned the Sweet Baby Discord that if you get rid of bad actors, they're just going to become more radical. Surely you should be terrified, right? If they're dangerous, it doesn't matter whether they write things or not, because they're dangerous and might do something. If they're not dangerous, who cares if they write stuff? Meanwhile, Sweet Baby clients are sticking with the company. Yeah, no shit, they're terrified. The studios that we're currently working with have reached out and offered their support, saying like, hey, we see what's happening online and just know we stand by you. Said Chris Kindred, a narrative designer at Sweet Baby. The casus belli of this blowing up was Chris Kindred going after a dude's personal Steam account. Hey, name those companies. Those companies that stand by Chris Kindred. Do they want to be named? Why not? Why don't they want to be associated with what Chris Kindred said? By the way, author of this article says what Chris Kindred did and said. Not important. Totally unimportant. Well, if you take it holistically, we just need to cut out anything that would make, my side in this look less moral and upstanding. You see, holistically, we're the good guys, so we shouldn't include anything bad about ourselves, because that would be a lie, really. In an email to The Verge, Gregorios Kithriotis, creative director on Sable, wrote, Sweet Baby was lovely to work with, extremely professional and easygoing. They respected our creative direction, and it was a really great experience. We're really grateful to them. So, Mary Kenny, who worked with Sweet Baby on Spider-Man 2, called them one of the finest in the biz. Who's Mary Kenny? Okay, I'm sure she did say that. Oh, Daddy Hat. Okay. I'm so lucky to have worked with that team. I hope to do so again, she posted on X. I hope asshats don't drive out some of the most talented, passionate people we've got. If that's true, that explains a lot about modern gaming. They Siffy, at first it was, they're trying to get rid of us, and now their strategy is, you can never get rid of us. Like, they have to choose, like, we're at risk, or we're in power, and they flip between it at will. You're a risk, we need to crush you. And then once they get success, or once they get what they need, or fail to get what they need. So they'll be a victim, they'll be in danger, until, for example, they get Steam forums locked down, until they get the consequences they want, or when they see that they can't get what they want from being a victim and being vulnerable, then they switch to, we're actually the strongest and you can never stop us. They do that flip. It's very disgusting.